Firstly, many, many congratulations. So I'll ask the obvious question that everyone asks. How does it feel?
You can start. Now, Dheer is very good at explaining that.
No, I mean, it feels absolutely incredible, surreal. Every day, you get up and you still have to pinch yourself to realize that, we've been blessed with this honor and this excitement of representing India at the 95th Oscars. Of course, we had a brief moment of celebration, very brief, and we got straight to work. And of course, the massive campaign that we have to put on to take the film from being India's entry to the next step, which is to get a nomination and then hopefully the win. So
absolutely, that's actually the challenge, because the trip till the to the Oscars, the Kodak Theatre, takes time. I mean, anyways, my wishes are with you. So the film is actually nostalgia. The projectionists do not exist anymore. They are like, we've kind of laid them to rest. And also, I think as children, each one of us in that dark room has wanted to make a film. So Nalin, was it somewhere inspired by you as a child?
I think I was totally inspired and I was hypnotized when my father took me to see movie for the first time, because usually he never did that because he thought the films will have bad influence on the kids. So, and that happened to be a religious film called Jai Mahakali, and little did he know that there will be like full-on action and blood and violence, There was nothing dharmic about that.
We've all started with movies like that.
So anyway, but what really impressed me in that movie was the if you remember in the 80s and the 70s and even all the way from 60s, people were doing this crash zoom effect, So, and the Kali will be there with tongue out, and I literally had a Lumiere brother type of sensation. I ran into, went under the chair and I was really scared for a while. And that fascination, that the way I was mesmerized, I don't think I ever remember I wanting to do anything. From that day onward, there was a single mind obsession without knowing what it means to be a filmmaker or film actor or producer or nothing. I had no clue even how films are made. I had just three elements that, there's a little booth in the cinema hall which projects beam of light and that falls on the screen. And somehow, if I can conquer these three things, it'll be all easy. But it wasn't that easy,
Absolutely. And so that I know you're very particular about the kind of films and content you want to back. So what was it about this one that you said, yes?
It's sort of exactly what you were talking about just now. The world that Nalin has managed to evoke, that sense of childlike wonder, which we've all experienced. And I think he's managed to let it transcend beyond just cinema in a sense. It's about childhood. It's about the magic of new experiences, things that you're going through for the first time, how you don't have any walls, you don't have any defenses at that age. Everything is new, everything is magical, everything is fresh. And just that sense of awe and wonder that he managed to evoke. I don't think anyone can leave the film not having experienced some flashback to certain moments in their own childhood when they, felt something for the first time. So, I laughed, I cried, I was moved, I was, very, very, I was very affected by the film. And I think, you as filmmakers, sometimes we tend to think of ourselves as people who need to judge something a bit different to the way that an audience would judge it. But I don't think that's true. I think you are the audience, right? So I felt if I was able to feel that, then why would, thousands and millions of people around the world not feel exactly the same thing when they watch this film? And that's what really made me want to get involved. Dheer and Nalin brought it to me when the film was ready. And I said instantly that it's something that I'd love for us to be associated with. And that's where the journey began.
Honestly, both of you, tell me, how difficult is it to make movies now? Because back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, partly in the 90s, the audience was way more forgiving. They enjoyed cinema for what it was. Nobody sat and judged, itane number hai, itana box office hai. You saw a film, you went on to the other one.
I think we tend to believe that because we were also children then, so our sense of judgment was very low. The bar was low. We just enjoyed everything that we watched. But I just read a review of Diwar the other day, which called Diwar a terrible disaster that was never going to work in the cinema. And I think people were pretty critical even then. So I'm not so sure that that has changed. But what I think you're right about is the fact that with the plethora of content that is available to people out there today, um, they have a lot more to base their judgment on, and therefore they've been exposed to all kinds of cinema from around the world. We grew up probably in a little bit of a more in a simpler time where there was only one mode of entertainment, and therefore you tended not to judge it. So in a way, I like to look at it optimistically and feel that the bar's just higher for us now, which is good because it helps us to up our game, and we can't be caught napping thinking that we're going to get away with shortcuts. We need to put in the hard work. We need to be able to mine that material that really is differentiated and is able to break through the amount of clutter that everyone has in their lives today. So I only look at it as a positive.
Nalin, what about you? Also, it's getting a release, and I'm glad it is. But then there's also that struggle, na? How many screens, how many theaters, what show timing? It's just that I'm sure you know the business and the math and the way it works. But as a director, what personally do you feel? How tough is it?
I mean, for me as a filmmaker, I always want my to be loved by my audience and the people, and I want to show the film. It's always a dream that maximum people watch the movie, but not sacrificing what I do as a filmmaker, because I thoroughly enjoy the process of making movie, and I want to be able to live with that story for 2 to 3 years, because you have to fall in love with those characters. You go back to sleep with those characters in your head. When you wake up, they are there. So it's a very long journey. So in the end, of course, it's a dream that these films can be shown. But I know the commercial side of the cinema. I know my feet are on the ground. I do believe that very often we misjudge the audience and what they really want to see. The real gap lies between, yes, there are many great films, but very often they don't make it to the audience because it's the gap in between the distribution system, which is driven by so many various forces. The reading of what is a success, driven in India and US by the number of crore rupees we make. For example, in Europe, it's very different model. You will never know, or very rarely you will know how much the film makes money. They always write how many people went to see the film.
That's more.
And if we use that model, maybe our system will be so transparent, and there will be some shocking figures will come out, and we'll say in 1.4 billion people, even after we make 100 crores, such a tiny number of people have seen the movie. It's a myth also as a filmmaker. So I'm really happy that what kind of people are watching my movie. And when I land up sometime in remote parts, I'm thrilled. For example, 4 weeks ago, suddenly someone is sending us, it was a WhatsApp message with a remote cinema hall, a Nord Cap near the North Pole, where last film show is playing 3 shows a day. So it's like, what?
Each time India would, say, have its official entry, and everybody would start writing obituaries saying, so many years we've never had a film that's won the Oscar. Lagan went and there was euphoria, and then, we know what happened. And then every year this happens. How tough is it really for India to be given that recognition? Mr. Button says it's not important. It's an American award. Hamare paas bahut hai, and we should celebrate this. I agree with that as well. But how tough is it really to make there, and how important is that Oscar? I know, I'm hoping that you do get it. I know it's going to be an arduous task. There's a lot of work involved, but how important is this validation really, and what are the challenges?
It is a fairly difficult process because the campaign essentially entails showing the film to as many voting members of the Academy as possible, right? The AMPAS voting members, which in itself is quite a task because a lot of them are working professionals. So I think that the process has gotten a little more democratic and democratic because of the digital revolution. which is good. But yeah, that really remains the challenge. So, you have to have a good publicist, a good PR campaign. You have to create buzz and conversation around the film so that, so that voting members actually come to watch it. Because just having one billboard up on Sunset Boulevard, which says for your consideration is not actually going to convert, people who drive down that street every day to go and watch it, at a screening. But yeah, it is definitely a daunting task.
I think the grammar of our filmmaking has always been quite different to what the West has been used to. We've had a 4-act structure. You've had an interval. You've had songs and dances. That's been our cinema, right?
Yeah.
And sure, you've had a parallel movement that has run concurrently, but that's always been in a very marginalized way. And I'm talking about the last 7 or 8 decades of our cinema since the time the Academy Awards started out. I think that has maybe held us back from being able to reach out to the Academy a little bit, because it's a very different context in which we've made movies. They've been very unique to our country, and we've been victims of our own success in a way because we've had such a large captive audience of our own that we've never really felt the need to change the grammar of our storytelling to fit a Western construct.
Absolutely.
Right? Having said that, in the last few years, I think you've definitely seen filmmakers who've been born and brought up here, but whose style of storytelling, I think, is much more international. So I think when you say that this is the right sort of film to send to the Academy, I think you're absolutely right. And I'm not just saying that because I'm associated with the film. It's also because it's such a hyper local film in the sense that it's as authentic as it gets. It's as real and rooted as it gets. But the style in which it's told is a style that can appeal to anyone from around the world, regardless of whether they understand the syntax and grammar of traditional Indian filmmaking. So I think that I think is the benefit that we have with Last Film Show, and we're hoping to just be able to get it to reach out to as many Academy members as possible, get them to watch it, because I think once you watch the film, it's very hard not to fall in love with it.
What's really important that ultimately for me, that the film maximum people should be able to watch. But as a filmmaker, I can't make movies with keeping that in mind. I never did that. I was never making a movie, oh, one day I'll become member of the Academy. No, I was just jealous of everything they were doing behind the doors, So then how can I be there to share that knowledge, So I think that's it. I mean, festivals, awards are all milestone. Ultimately, we want the movie to reach to the audience, like on 13th and 14th October. We really want maximum people to watch it. And if we do get nominated, we know it's the truth. Many more people will see it. If we win, even more people will see it. But it's just the beginning of the journey, and that's how it is. And let's see for the rest. Fingers
You are
crossed.
saying that I can already see that both your producers are thinking of strategies, So I think that they are the ones now working overtime. Now, before we go, I know there's always been that one movie that made us just fall in love with the magic of cinema. Which was that one film for you that made you just like, this is going to be my life?
Oh, I think it keeps
Not Gemma Kali.
So maybe you to ask actually.
I have a couple. Actually, I've said the Titanic one before, so I think I'll go with another one. I remember there was this movie called Cool Runnings. It's like a very random movie. So I don't know if you ever watched it.
I have. Yep.
Cool Runnings.
It's about these 5 Jamaican track runners who are competing for the Olympics, or who are trying to get qualified for the Olympics. And the 4 best guys, they crash out of the race because one of them trips and falls, and all 4 of the main 400-meter sprinters, and Jamaica always has the best 100-meter sprinters, all of them crash out of the race. And that was really the last chance that they had to be Olympians. So then they decide to join. They decide to go bobsledding and join the bobsledding team. And Jamaica goes into the Winter Olympics for the first time. And it's such a magical movie. It's like such an incredible sort of thought that went in there. And I remember we used to watch it on LDs, on the laser disc, because it was probably out of cinemas by the time I got to it. But I've probably watched that film about 200 times when I was young.
Wow. So which one would that be for you?
For me, it was Sholay, and I think everyone's going to be really bored by this answer. But I mean, because I say it
Imagine
all.
even Sholay was written off when it released. Can you imagine?
It was. And Salim Javed took out ads in the trade guide saying it's going to do 1 crore per territory, and they were wrong because it did much more than that. But I remember taking my grandfather once every 3 months to watch it at Minerva. The poor man had to sit through the film repeatedly with me, and it ran for 7 years. So I'd be going all the time, and we'd have to buy tickets in black. And if he refused, then I'd just lie down on the ground and start crying. So he had to
Wow.
to indulge me. But yeah, I think for me it was Sholay. I think Sholay has everything that a great commercial Hindi film, needed. And it tells a story with so much depth. There's so many subplots, great characters, a fabulous villain, tragic heroes. I mean, it's got everything that could make you fall in love with the movies.
Yeah, we never had a villain like Gabbar again, and Jai Veeru are still quoted. And, we still remember them. They are like the epitome of friendship. I totally agree with you. But it's ironical, some of the best films, cult classics, were written off. Whether it was Kagaz Ke Phool, whether it was Guide, whether it was Sholay, even our recent Andaz Apna Apna, now everyone keeps going back to it, was written off. So anyways, but thank you so much. All the very best. And hopefully we'll speak closer to the Academy Awards.
Hey,
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.